excuse me, did you think that there was going to be a new Cattle drop and I wasn't going to talk about it? Technically, it's not new Cattle Decapitation. This album, the album this song came from, is like 3 years old at this point, but it's a new video, and I'm very excited. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Mark. I'm an extreme metal vocal coach. I teach people how to go safely and efficiently. That's what I do for a living. And Travis Ryan is actually one of my top favorite vocalists out there. And actually, over the past few years, I've been able to meet him a couple times, and he's become a good friend of mine. So I'm very excited to talk about it. His voice is amazing, and I'm short on time because I've got a big day of vocal lessons. So I got to get this in about 30 minutes. Let's just hop into it. This is Dead End Residence, Cattle Decapitation. Here we go. Now, because I've listened to this album a lot, I know pretty much the spots I want to pause, right? This is not a first time reaction. I don't really do those that much these days anyway. This is mostly about vocal analysis. So one of the things I like the most about Travis's voice, one of the things I appreciate the most about Travis's voice is the way that he screams it's like nothing is off limits, right? The tone that he's using here. Now, interestingly enough, he and I, we were both part of the research study that the Charismatic Voice in the University of Utah is doing. And he and I like sat together and compared distortion, and like we sounded very similar, but we actually scream very differently from what I understand, right? But the sound that he's making here is a sound that a lot of people use as a foundational tone, right? This really burpy sort of work zug sort of sound right here. It's like we're taking like an Arnold Schwarzenegger voice or like a Yoda voice. Hey, strong with the force he is. Or like, remember in Disney movies, whenever there was a French character, they laughed like this back in the day. Like this sort of sensation, right? He takes this and he's like legitimately the only person I have found that can make that sound good as a standalone vocal. A lot of people use this now when I do it and when a lot of other people do it, there's a lot of epiglottic engagement. There may be with him as well, right? But a lot of people when they do this, right, they move away from that tone that coexists with the distortion in their voice. So this here, there's distortion, there's voice, they're together. And the reason this is a good way to learn certain techniques or to learn this like vocalization is because the chord connection gives you some like stability for the airflow you need to get the distortion to happen, right? And most of the time when I hear other people do this, it sounds kind of like a Muppet. It sounds kind of like a Cookie Monster sort of situation. But when he does it, it sounds so cool. Why would that be? I'm going to keep this brief. I'm going to keep this short. But why would that be, right? It's because so much of our metal vocalization and where a lot of new metal vocalists kind of I wouldn't say mess up, but maybe something they overlook is that it's not just the distortion. Oftentimes in the metal vocal world, we think of the scream as just the distortion, but in actuality, it's the way that we deliver it. And so the character that he's adding to it, dare I call it the Travis Ryan accent that he's adding to it, makes it so highly effective, and it cuts through the mix super well. So this very like this light is coming every single load, right? Even when I do that voice, it sounds kind of cartoony, but his delivery is super good. Let's keep going because there's a lot I want to talk about. But yeah, this very like spoken level, distorted, right? You can kind of hear the voice going on in there. And that's a springboard to a lot of really great vocal styles, like a more compressed, like deathcore, sort of like, hey, this also like a more slammy. Now, I've never done a slam song in my life, but you can take it and just kind of slow it down. An actual slam vocalist would make that sound a lot better, but the technique is there. Let's keep going. Sorry, you're going to notice a big YouTube pause there. My whole rig froze. Thankfully, nothing actually stopped. But anyway, so what I was going to say before I noticed that the video paused, or that my rig paused, was that one of my favorite things about listening to Travis is how absolutely foundational you can hear his voice being to the current state of metal vocalization, right? A lot of these things that we love so much in the way that our favorite vocalists scream, I don't know if they started with Travis, but Travis has been doing for a very long time. The rapid fire highs layered with like a mid or a low, this with like a like existing at the same time, the burpy like that sort of thing. The tunnel situation, right? The tunnel throw technique. Again, I don't know if he invented it. I don't know who invented it. But like the curling of the tunnel, like these sorts of sounds, right? They're sounds that have been around for a very long time and have been popularized a lot over the years. And I think a lot of that has to do with the dawn of social media and everybody having a camera in their pocket, right? And the reason I tell this to you isn't to say, oh, Travis did it first and everybody else doing it is a copycat, maybe, but it's more so to talk about how much longevity and how effective these techniques can be, right? The way that he plays with and experiments with his voice, I think is part of what has given him such an extremely unique sound, right? So what does this mean to you? What does this mean to the person who is, what does this mean to the person who's watching this video? I want you to be very playful with your voice, right? I want you to be very playful with the way that you sound. Take time sometimes to drop the false chord label, to drop the fry label, to drop your expectations of how loud a scream should be, and just mess around with your voice. Just any sort of sound that you want to make, right? It's actually part of the reason I was very excited to check out this video, because this is something I've been talking with a lot of my students about. So I'm going to get back to the song, but I want you to listen to the sounds that he is making, and then think about the fact, put yourself in the context of the fact that he was doing a lot of these sounds prior to people like me being on the internet, prior to any sort of social media, prior to all of that. And so kind of listen to that as we continue on, and allow yourself to be inspired by the fact, right, that these sounds came from and have lasted for so long. And then we'll get into a more technical like analysis. But I think with Travis, it's really important to keep that in the forefront of our analysis and the way that we listen, because that's one of the things that he values the most. Just the fact that he was playful and messing around with his voice. And that's how he learned a lot of this stuff. Let's keep going. Listen to that mobility. Like, listen to that mobility, right? He was doing his like signature Travis Ryan gritty singing goblin thing that I absolutely love. Like, sometimes when people say like, well, when I think to myself, like, who has my favorite metal singing, it might be Travis, because it sounds so freaking weird, right? It sounds so. I remember the first time I heard Decapitation, it was when they had like this little mini documentary of Monolith, them recording Monolith, and he was in the studio doing this singing, and I was like, I hate that. And then I listened to it again, and I listened to it again, and I listened to it again. And the more I listened to it, I was like, no, I don't hate it. I think I actually love it. And so this is kind of what I'm talking about with like his unique sound, but I want to talk more about the mobility. I think one of the things I am so impressed with Travis's voice on is his ability to slide from voiced distortion to what I'm going to call non-voiced, or maybe it's better to call it low perceivable pitch distortion. And so here's what I mean, right? A lot of the time when we are learning metal vocalization, a good method, a very common method, is to find a voiced style of distortion that can lead into the low perceivable pitch style. And the reason I'm saying low perceivable pitch, by the way, is I used to say non-voiced. That was a big way that I worded it for many, many years, non-voiced or voiceless. And over the years, I've kind of changed the way that I want to talk about that, because I think sometimes, you know, having taken so many students and been teaching for so long, I think sometimes it creates the wrong expectation and generates the wrong point of focus for students. Rather than thinking about how the distortion feels and sounds, they're hyper focused on like making sure their vocal cords are making zero noise. And that's not really as important as I think the terminology I used to use made it sound. So over the past year, maybe 6 or 7 months, I've really been trying to self-correct. So rather than saying voiceless or pitchless, low perceivable pitch, because even if I do like something that sounds entirely voiceless in a mix, if you listen, it might not come through here, but if you were in the room with me, you would hear a little underneath, right? So anyway, his ability to slide his voice on a gradient, right? Slide his voice on a gradient is phenomenal. If I take this same burpee, well, not the same, because again, we do things differently, we found out, but if I take this burpee, I've been screaming for a very long time, not as long as him, but he makes that sound. So I feel pretty good with it, but he makes it sound effortless, right? And he does this from that clean singing into the highs, right? From his clean singing, which I can't do. I'm just gonna do it because for a laugh. I'm gonna do it for all. Yay! My body in the dark shadows. That's the closest I get, and I sound horrible, right? But he slides so beautifully into this this crystal clear distortion that is so high and so thin and so staticky, right? It almost sounds like a cat, right? But he still has that. There's this signature ping to his voice that I cannot get enough of, right? And a lot of this, you know, one thing that I think is important, you know, because especially if you're a deathcore vocalist, right? If you're doing a different genre of metal, high mobility is not as important. A lot of metal vocal, like if you're going to be in like an old school death metal band and you're just going to bark out some like growly lows, if you're just going to do that, then mobility is not going to be a huge issue for you, right? But if you're in deathcore or tech death or like whatever cattle is these days, they started out as like grindcore, I think it would be, and then moved on. Vocal mobility is going to be very important for you. And oftentimes we forget that our vocal anatomy is a web, using that term figuratively. Maybe I should say a weave. A weave is a better term, of connected pieces. So if you go onto Google and you look at vocal muscles, right? Both extrinsic and intrinsic. So like out here, you have all these like muscles that go up and down your neck, the omohyoid, the styohyoid, right? Inside, you've got your vocal muscles, the cricothyroid, the thyroid, the vocalists along the edge of the vocal fold. It really kind of looks like this wicker basket, all woven together, everything fitting into itself. It's kind of beautiful in a really gross way, right? the reason I'm telling you this isn't to be like, oh, look, I know all these anatomical terms. I only know the ones that I need to know, right? I only know the ones that I need to know, and everything else I have no idea, right? But it's to say that all of the pieces of our voice are connected in some way, right? We have this bone called the hyoid bone that these muscles connect to, and the base of our tongue, this submandibular region, connects to. And so tension here can cause tension in the throat, right? This is all connected. So a lot of the times when I have a student who is trying to, let's say, did it stop recording again? Oh, thank God. No, whew, we're good. When I have a student who's trying to do these slides, their issue isn't necessarily so direct as just moving their voice back and forth, but it's just making the voice limber. It's just making this space limber. Now, that's not the solution all the time, but doing like and being able to pause in different spaces, it sounds like an idiot. You know, if you had the urge, like, oh my God, that's hard to watch, this like balding bearded guy making these silly noises, I almost want to scroll. Good. I want you to summon that feeling in yourself about yourself, because if you can feel that cringy, you're probably moving your voice around in a really effective way. That's a little bit of a fun comedic way to say it, of course. But if we can and hold all of these different postures, and the effort in those spaces feels basically the same, that's huge, right? How many people do you know who have difficulty singing high notes, right? You ask them to sing a high note, it's going to be really hard. You get them to do something silly so they're not thinking about it so much, and all of a sudden they have access. Now, that's not going to be true for everybody, but it's true for a lot of people. So I know I'm going off on a rant here, but I think it's important. I think it's important that we expand our understanding of extreme vocalization from, here are these individual grid-lined techniques that exist on a Excel spreadsheet style viewpoint, and instead think, hey, our voice, everything we do is a team effort of our entire vocal system. And so if we're having trouble with like, say, generating some distortion, right? We don't have to just pound on that distortion nonstop. We don't have to keep doing the same, like one of my favorite exercises is like this, again, orc voice, work, 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 gorilla grunt, breathe into it. If that doesn't work for you, which is likely because it's difficult for a lot of people, it takes a long time, right? You can expand your view, and rather than just like pounding against that exercise until it doesn't feel uncomfortable anymore, you can say like, okay, well, what does my support feel like? Where do I feel my voice? And to hopefully help with this, I actually just recently released a free vocal course, entirely 100% free, where I guide a student kind of through being playful. It's one of my students who's here locally. Guide my student through being playful with his voice. Guide him through discovering these different places. And the reason it's free is because it's something that you don't technically need a vocal coach to do. Like you can be playful with your voice for entirely free by yourself on your drive to work. So I'm not going to charge you for it, right? It's just if you need, like, if you're like, I have no idea how to even be playful with my voice, that's what the course is for. You can check it in the description below. But let's keep going, because I'm hoping we hear a lot more highs, because god dang, this guy's highs are so good. Let's keep at it. I know I just paused, but that's literally one of my favorite things he does. Good God, it sounds so sick. Listen to this. Listen to, he does 3 things with this high vocal in such a short period of time. And they're so subtle, but they have such a big impact. Check it out. Listen to this. Amazing. Amazing. So So let's talk about that. So, dude, there's some metal vocalists that I cannot get burnt out on. Travis Ryan is one of them. Alex Tyne is another one. Johnny Davey is another one. Cheney Crab has become another one. Like insane. But anyways, so we have our high vocal, and this, what I'm going to show you, applies to if you're more of like a fry high person, if you're more of what often is called a false chord high person, whatever else, right? Doesn't matter. It's going to apply. So we have our bass line high, and he's keeping it out pretty steady. I don't know the lyrics. I've listened to this album so many times. I don't know the lyrics. Am I a poser? Probably. What are you gonna? I'll sleep fine, right? So yeah. One thing that he does, I do it by sort of rounding my lips, is he'll modulate, he'll change, he'll color the very last syllable of his lyric, and the way that it sounds like he's doing it, the way that I would do it is right. Rolling out, or sorry, narrowing the lips, sort of rounding the front of the mouth, right? And then I do feel a little bit of squeeze in the pharyngeal space, a little squeeze in the back of the mouth. Ow, ow, ow. And then he throws what over the years has become called a tunnel on it, which I'm kind of in agreement. I don't know why we call it a tunnel throat. I think maybe because it sounds like it's in a tunnel. I don't think it sounds like it's in a tunnel. And a tunnel is like a big open space. But when we do this, we're occluding the vocal tract. We're creating a little new resonance chamber, but it's not open and free flowing the same way. So there's not really anything structurally or audibly tunnel about it, but I don't care. I'm not one to get too caught up on terminology. You can call it whatever you want. It's not going to bother me. But so yeah. Oh, that was cool. I never done that before. How did I do that? I've never done that before. That was an accident. That was sick. Yeah, like tilted and then rolled my tongue on the side. I can't hit it again. Oh, there it was. I'm gonna have to play around with that. That was gnarly. That was awesome. But it's those little subtleties that I love about Travin's voice. Yes, his voice is very maximal. He does so many different things, but also on those things, he sprinkles little subtle seasonings. And I think that's so cool. I just love it. Let's keep going. That mobility. Good God, that's so cool. You know, another thing I'll say is, don't be afraid. Okay, I got to think about how to word this. Don't be afraid to mix in things to your scream that are often called wrong. Now, when I say that, I'm not talking about things that are painful or damaging. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm not telling you to push through pain. I'm not telling you, oh, you got to develop a callus. Never listen to anybody. I still hear that sometimes online. You got to build up your calluses. There is not a single technique in the world that requires you to have any callus anywhere in your vocal anatomy. But what I'm talking about is sounds that are often referred to as wrong. Like, this is not generally considered a high scream. But that doesn't mean it's useless. It doesn't mean it's useless. What if I take a high scream and I do some of that while I do it? So here's so now, is that what he was doing at the end there? That's what made me think of it? Hell, I don't know. Right? After sitting with Travis for a long time, I realized that guy's just doing some crazy shit. That guy's just doing some crazy stuff, right? But really, like, I encourage you, the main thing I want you to take away from this video is, yes, all of the education, like, obviously I'm very pro extreme vocal lessons. That's what I do for a living. But I think that the lessons should be supplemented with you just literally messing around with your voice, temporarily taking away all the labels, temporarily dropping all of the terms, and without sacrificing comfort control. Like, I'm never gonna be the one to tell you, like, oh, it's okay if your voice hurts all the time. Oh, you should feel strain when you play. You're never gonna hear that from me. But adding things, like another one that was wrong for a long time is Cookie Monster vocals. Everybody said you don't want to sound like me like Cookie, me like Cookie. That was a big thing. Now, I don't know if that was across the whole world or just in my region, but where I grew up in Arizona, everybody was like, oh, you really want to avoid Cookie Monster vocals. Never do like the cookie. And this is what they meant. If they said this in your area and they meant something different, let me know. But it was, no Cookie Monster vocals. No, don't do that. And I agree. That doesn't sound very good to me. But what if instead of abandoning it entirely, I just lean into it? Oh, no, me no Cookie Monsters. Oh, me no Cookie Monster. There was no Cookie Monster. Ah, pressure. That sounds kind of cool, especially in a mix, right? So be playful with your voice. And I love listening to Travis because not only can we hear the fact that, you know, as he has stated, that's how he learned, by just being extremely playful, trying sounds, not worrying too much about being loud or quiet. Just if it sounded good, it was good, right? And number two, like, allowing yourself to be limber, right? That's one of, and when I listen to Travis's voice, I hear so much mastery that came from not thinking of it. And again, this is just reiterations of conversations I've had. So on the off chance that, Travis, you see this, feel free to correct me. Feel free to tell me if I understood you wrong. But so much mastery in his voice that has come from not worrying about mastering a craft, just doing some cool sounds, right? That's all I got for you. I got a lesson in 4 minutes. But absolutely love Travis Ryan. Love Cattle Decapitation. Love how inspiring and it makes my brain think. If you've never listened to Cattle before, I highly recommend it. Most people, they start with Monolith of Inhumanity. Although I think, if I remember correctly, the album before that was the Harvest Floors. I might be getting my order wrong. I think that for a new Cattle listener, that's where I would start, either there or Monolith, because their stuff before that was really grindy. It's like, we're talking like 2-minute songs, really, really fast, high chaos. Over the years, they've kind of, I don't want to say perfected their sound, because the stuff they had prior to that was really, really cool, but they've become a little bit more music you can bob your head to. You know what I'm saying? So starting with, most people start with Monolith, and then they move forward from there. Anthropocene Extinction is pretty good. For me personally, Monolith and Death Atlas are my favorite albums. Although Terracite and Anthropocene, I think it's Anthropocene Extinction, both of those are very, very good too. So if you liked this song, go spin some Cattle Decap. You will not be disappointed. I promise you that. Or you will be. I don't know, because we all like different stuff. But beyond that, I gotta go. Many thanks. Much love. I'm out.